So let's start with the obvious one. How do you convince your superiors and how are you gonna convince your coworkers that MediaWiki or semantic MediaWiki is a good solution for whatever business challenge, knowledge management challenge that you have? Anyone want to start with that one?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
We'll take that. The exploding one.
Yeah.
We'll take the exploding one.
I don't have an answer to that, but I have a question about it, kind of related to, because the enterprise is so, many enterprises are very Microsoft heavy. I mean, especially government, and because it's like someone said, no one ever got fired for picking SharePoint, right? And there doesn't seem to be an upside, an evident upside, I guess a short-term upside to adopting MediaWiki. And so I guess the challenge, part of it is how much of the enterprise can you support really with MediaWiki? How much should you try to? And once you decide how much that is, how do you convince them that MediaWiki is a better solution from many angles, from a financial angle, from an operational angle, from timeliness, support. With Microsoft, I mean, our company, we're a Microsoft partner. We're a Microsoft Gold partner in one area in hosting and something in silver in development. I'm obviously not part of that group, so I don't know exactly. I should. Can we edit this later? But no. So we're involved in the Microsoft stuff, right? But we're also engaged in this, and then that question is, what is because you can't just say, oh well, MediaWiki's free, because you still have to support it with the people and the maintenance and the hosting and all of that. And so those are a lot of the ideas and things that rattle around in my brain as I try to figure out, how far should we even aim for inside the enterprise, and especially in a large enterprise that consists of 4 million employees scattered all around the world.
Yeah. So that is a question, but who has the answer? Laurent has the answer.
Not an answer, but I'm still struggling with many of the culture change and adoption and scaling up, not in terms of technology, but in terms of adoption and usage. But one strategy I found that works relatively well to roll out other wikis in the enterprise, and MediaWikis in particular, is to start with a small focus team that really can be very active, that can really make it part of their job to work on the wiki. And also, if that's a possibility in your particular culture, ask for forgiveness, not for permission. Do it first, build it, make sure it works for the team you're working with, and then eventually, as it grows, it becomes, hey, we have this solution, it works really well. Try to replicate it in SharePoint, and good luck. And as it grows, do another one, or bring people to use this one. I've had discussion with people saying, hey, we like this one, but we want our own. And after discussing for a while, realized that they could just use they could just add content to this one instead of creating their own. And they are very happy to have, it's already there, it's free, you don't have to pay licensing, and they start using it.
Okay. Ask for forgiveness, not for permission.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that is a story that I've heard from a couple of people this week and previous conferences, that often is the way how you start building it. Mark?
It's also helped to have some cover. I mean,
yeah,
depending on the culture, having somebody who is aware of it and lets you do it anyway can help also to ask forgiveness later.
Mm-hmm.
So I am only a consultant. I don't have to ask anyone to come here. I just have to pay my own way. But I would say that when y'all are talking about how do you implement this, I have the advantage of working at one of my clients. The guy who is hired or who is tasked with the job of creating their knowledge sharing structure said, I want to use MediaWiki here. So I mean, this is like an almost C-level guy saying, we're going to use MediaWiki. So that's cover from the top. But he got there because I knew him from another client where someone installed MediaWiki under their desk and they proved the value. So, sometimes it's a year-long strategy. Years.
It's much easier to prove the value when you already have it there to
Right.
show them than just discussing it.
Right. And then you want to make it viral by, people going off like dandelion seeds and man, that would grow then. Make sure they get C-level positions.
Yes, we were talking several times about stories and storytelling with regard to Wiki, and I'd like to come up with a silly story that works sometimes pretty well, and it is related to the fact that I really think Wiki text is a feature and it's not a hassle. And today, I heard we want to protect our people from Wiki text. I think it's really, it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to learn it. Just do it. And the story I come up with is that at the beginning of a session I say that I have, or I'm actually running a little messenger service in Switzerland. And I just sold all the cars and replaced them with bikes. Why? Because everyone can run a bike. You don't need a driver's license, you don't need experience. You can do it. You don't even, there's no age restriction, right? Now, the consequence of this is that a parcel between Zurich and Geneva takes now 4 days to deliver, right? So they say, this is utterly stupid. And I say, yes, that's true. Why? They said, well, because the marginal cost of learning to drive a car out is far less than the marginal utility you gain in actually running your business with cars. And I say, whoa. Now connect the dots and replace cars with wiki text. And your effort of passing a test with learning wiki text. So this kind of silly stories might help to bring some points across.
I was making a comment earlier that companies routinely have no problem throwing entirely new system at their employees, new ordering system, new HR system, and say, hey, figure it out, and with very little training attached to the system itself. Sometimes you have an SOP or something, but it happens all the time in large companies. Here's a new way of doing things, figure it out. So the thing about Wikitext is too hard to learn, it's much better with your story, but it really doesn't hold water.
I don't want to necessarily repeat, presentations that my colleagues have given in the past, but enterprisemediawiki.org, we have some of the old pitches that we've done on the history of how we started our wiki at NASA. And like Mark was saying, some wikis may start from the top and work their way down, which that's an ideal situation probably, but ours was definitely just 2 or 3 people, and 2 years before we even showed it to the light of day, to our management. So we had to get that critical mass. enterprisemediawiki.org. .org. Oh, I'm sorry. Scroll down. There's to the actual wiki here, our wiki. Yeah. We should probably have a better splash page. Yeah, and there's a pitch on there that I think went to Semantic MediaWikiCon a few years back, but that history of EVA Wiki. But the main reason where we got traction with management and with the rest of our coworkers, our user base, was as we were creating this critical mass, we found major holes in our knowledge that you couldn't connect those dots in the old legacy format. And not only that, we had conflicting data. We might have two documents that were considered governing documents. These are documents that I should be able to execute from and do my job safely, but they're in disagreement. One says one thing and another one says another. Which one's right? And then to make it even worse, there's not a primary source or a citation of where this came from. But we've been using this document for years. So it was quite scary in some cases when we found this material. And the way we found it is by bringing it into the wiki, and the semantic properties are kind of, shedding this light on these topics. So that's what helped us get at least management buy-in to where they say, okay, yeah, we have a problem here. And then, like you mentioned, we show, so their first question is, can't SharePoint do this? Or can our other tools do this? Don't we already have systems in place that maybe we just need to correct them? And so we'd explain, well, but it's such a lengthy process to you have some CR workflow that takes months, a review process, and the bureaucracy of it. And so we had to prove to them that having more visibility on the content and reviewership, more fluid than it has been, then we can now correct these mistakes. We can fill in these holes, and now we have an actual picture of our knowledge, much better than we had before. So feel free to peruse our history there. Like I said, I don't want to repeat it necessarily, but yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Just to comment on that, that's one way I've explained the value of MediaWiki in particular to people in the company, is that it's a fantastic disambiguation engine. Yeah. Going through the exercise of putting everything inside forms, finding ways to name them properly, bring up collisions very quickly. A very silly example, just the number of times we name different projects with the same name in different parts of the company. Hey, we have a new Atlas project. Well, there's already 5 Atlas projects. Maybe you might want to have a different name for your project to avoid confusion, especially when this one project is about making search easier, and there are already 2 other Atlas projects that are about making search easier. So this kind of thing happens very easily. You can highlight that very easily with a wiki.
Even just using the citation, using a simple citation needed flag on a page, and then doing a query, show me all sources, pages that need sources. I mean, right there you get within, obviously you got to build this as you go, but if I'm reading an article and something tells me, oh, you need to teach the astronaut how to do this because of this. Okay, why do we do it that way? Citation needed. And then next week, one of my coworkers goes on and said, well, if you refer to this manual on this page, here it is. This is why we do it. Great, but there, we can do a simple query and find out where all of our holes are. And we can task people to say, we need you to go out and figure out why we do it this way, or find the document. So.
Oh yeah, I have a question. If people get asked, if someone asks you for like a demo for this functionality, are there any specific sites that you like to point them to, like examples of MediaWiki and or Semantic MediaWiki or anything else? It's like a proof of concept of what can be, how this can work for your organization. I guess for a lot of you, it's been a while since you had to do that kind of internal sales pitch, but.
I usually go to Wiki of the Month.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Do the highlights there.
We used to have a thing called Wiki of the Month, or not, well, we used to, I don't know.
But
Yeah.
For a while, that was a good source of
Yeah.
solid wikis to show people examples. A few years ago, we had a presentation about a wiki for the state of beaches around the Pacific coast.
Sure, Beachipedia.
Beachipedia, that was a very nice.
Okay, so the thing is, you don't want to have a wiki of the, you want to have a semantic wiki
Well,
of the month, because what you're selling is semantic MediaWiki, right? Yeah.
Well, this is Semantic MediaWiki's Wiki of the
Yeah.
Month. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, there's a few people here represented in this list. Here's NASA.
Okay, well, the point is, if you want to make this case for your boss, say, boss, I think that we
Wikipedia.
could use semantic MediaWiki. It's open source. It's what you see in Wikipedia, but slightly different because we can tailor it for our specific needs. Have a look at this website. These people have done it for theirs, and it matches our business profile better than Wikipedia. So you have to do research
Oh, there it
on
is.
whatever list you have to find a website that does that. So you don't open up a thing and it only has information about flowers in May and nothing that appeals to your boss or relates to your business model. Mark was first.
So the client I mentioned before that this C-level guy is going to, they already had Confluence. So, saying, oh, we need a wiki, you're liable to get something like Confluence, or they'll say, well, use SharePoint Wiki. And so I actually began communicating this week with a guy who has been working on the Confluence Wiki and putting a lot of content into that wiki. And he is excited because my boss is excited about MediaWiki, and he's been talking to him about, hey, what is the new capabilities I can get over here that Confluence doesn't give me? So I say this to say that I think Peter's right, that you need to say you need a semantic MediaWiki or semantic wiki, and that way Confluence, that's something Confluence can't say they have.
Related to that, does anyone know any public, rich wiki in general that is not MediaWiki?
Rich
Out
Wiki?
there. A solid wiki with content that is popular and
Oh, that's an interesting
and
question, yeah.
useful. Because one thing that that was
Well, actually, there are a few. There's sorry. Oh, are you talking about wiki software, or specific
not
wiki
software,
sites?
a site,
Yeah.
a site.
Yeah. There's
Because I was going to
I
say
know-
one
yeah.
thing that made me.
for a public wiki? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Well, Confluence Wiki, there are a lot of examples. I don't know them by hand, but a lot of they get you in. Atlassian gets you in with a public. Atlassian, has free software license for any open source project if the project is public. So there's lots of them, and it's horrible, but there you go.
I was going to say one thing that made me come to MediaWiki in the first place was 8 years ago still, but was the realization that every time I wanted to use a knowledge base on the web about anything, it was MediaWiki. About scientific stuff, about video games, about any kind of hobby. Every time you look for something that has some kind of knowledge base built around it in the public, it ended up being MediaWiki. So I was wondering, is there anything equivalent I mean, do you know of something like a Wikia that doesn't have, that is not made with-
Public wiki farms that use software other than MediaWiki.
with good exposure, traffic, and so on?
It's nothing like, there's nothing like Wiki in general. It's like it's in the like top 200 most popular websites in the world, I think.
GitHub Wiki, yeah, maybe.
I don't think that's really used.
Is there any well-detailed one that you can point at? That's really the context of my question is, if you want to point an example of a good wiki, do we know anything that is not MediaWiki that you can point at?
That's good.
That's good, yeah.
That has semantics, that has something
Yeah,
more than just
well-
a collection. Pages.
But even collection of pages. Do you know it?
Well, there's certainly popular wikis that have use their own custom-made wiki stuff. There's tvtropes.com. I don't know if anyone has heard of this. I like that site, but that's custom software. Yeah.
Okay, so let's do it another way around. So if you're looking for a wiki to show basic features that you think will convince your boss to allow you to play with this, why don't we set up a wiki like that? Go to referata.com, example wiki, whatever, and add some basic features. Hey, this is just a couple of minutes of work, and this is what we did in here, and see. So this is how you do document management. This is how you do queries. This is how you do whatever you want to do. If that was the case, what are the features that you think will sell it? What features do you want to have on that wiki? If you build it yourself or if you're looking for it on the list, what kind of features make it essential as a business tool? Anyone?
Well, with all respect, wouldn't it be better to use a real wiki? Wouldn't that be ideal?
You get into an issue with sample data. Those properties are really useful when you have real content. So setting up, and that's something you run into all the time when you start a new project. I really hate when people use lorem ipsum for development or
lorem ipsum, right.
just a handful of samples, because that may work great in development, but as soon as it hits reality and you have the whole range of the content you might want to get with the special characters and very big pages, and like in the wiki I was presenting about, we run into this problem of some pages had hundreds and hundreds of properties that made them very long to save and very unwieldy. So I had to find a different way to save a lot of those properties that were just generated automatically anyway, put them elsewhere to make the page easier to handle. And that's the kind of thing you won't see with a very small sample, a very small example. So having a catalog of maintained wikis with real content is much more valuable.
By the way, sorry, if anybody wants to, to see this come back to life, I think they'd be willing to accept anyone as the administrator of this. You just. Yeah, 2 people actually volunteered to do it, and then we never heard from them again. That was literally the last anyone ever heard of. Sorry, this whole thing. The last entry was I guess in early 2015. I was maintaining it, and then I said it. Mid 2015. And then I decided to stop, and now that we have no more Wiki of the Month. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
We also have to be careful not to concentrate on the implementation level, because usually a manager is not interested in how something works. That's why on my business card it actually says shorten the time it takes for your new employees to get productive. And the point is, a file system is usually, after the first or second iteration, a complete mess. And that's why a file system organizes your files while a semantic MediaWiki explains your business. And we all know the situation when you hire someone, you usually put him in front of a flip chart and you start to explain your business with entities and relationships and the workflows connected to that. And I have shown an example to Cindy this afternoon. A semantic MediaWiki is capable of explaining a business on the terminological level as well as on the assertional level. Of course, it's not smart and cannot interpret many things, but it is usually enormously helpful for a person, a new employee, as a reference rather than a file system. So just concentrate on what the utility is for a manager, and if you can manage to bring a new employee up to speed in half the time, that is in the favor of every manager, I guess.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was trying to show MediaWiki and explaining why I would prefer it to alternatives, and I found very quick ways to show categories, how you can move quickly through a category system, how you can use footnotes to drill in, and how you could show real equations. And those were things, if you can get some person to be interested in those features, there's a way of doing good science. That draws them toward MediaWiki afterward.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's a bunch of functionality just within core MediaWiki that's really
Yes,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
core, but
right,
it's,
sure, that's
but those things, you can
absolutely
demonstrate all
useful.
three of those things in 1 minute.
Yeah. By the way, I think it would be great to have like one of those 30-second, minute-long YouTube video things about this software, which that's the NASA thing. That's it. I mean, that's that's all we have right now. Yeah, it'd be great if anyone wants to do that. Someone with actual.
If I was a manager, I would ask, how well does this work cross-platform, including mobile?
Right. Yeah. Are you asking that? Or oh, okay. I think in terms of mobile stuff, there's certainly mobile-friendly skins. There's a nice one that's in use on Wikipedia. If you go there from a cell phone, you'll see it. If you're talking about editing and forms and stuff, it depends on the device, I guess. But I don't know.
Can I quickly bother you with one last story? I also usually ask people what is the difference between parachuting and scuba diving, except for the fact that parachuting is in air and scuba diving in water. And the difference that I want to point out is that you can do a little scuba diving, but you can't do a little parachuting. So you can get into the scuba diving gear, try 10 centimeters of submersion, and if you don't like it, get out of it, and that's it. But you can't jump off a 10-meter building and figure out whether you like parachuting. And software must function like scuba diving. But there's a load, I mean, SharePoint usually takes $100,000 configuration process, then 2 months of training, and then you'll see some utility. This is, if it didn't carry the MS logo, that would be a no-go for many people. And MediaWiki or Semantic MediaWiki just allows you to do a 5-centimeter dive. If you don't like it, whatever, and gradually move your data from one system to the other. So it's that's not as daunting.
So what Lex said is absolutely correct, that we have to keep this tool to be a scuba diver sort of experience that you can just install it under your desk, or you could just, if you can pull up a WAMP stack on your Windows machine, you can manage it. That's not ideal, but it allows you to get a taste. And I'm saying this because I want your help in advocating to the foundation that we need to keep this subversive nature of MediaWiki available, because they are concerned with their site, which is, they have 40, I don't know how many people they have. They have a number of people in DevOps. So they have a staff that's dedicated just to keeping the site up. They don't need all this, works out of the box easily sort of stuff. They have a whole infrastructure built around making it operate the way they want. So
You're talking about all the services that MediaWiki might require just to be used, like Node.js and stuff?
that is a part of it, but that is not the only part of it. I am not on a services rant. Someone said that to me before. Oh, you're just talking about services. I am, but that's not all. It's bigger than just services. So yeah, I'm going to shut up now because otherwise I'll become too upset.
Well, can you give an example of something else besides services that's potentially an issue, like making MediaWiki too hard to work with?
That's like the pink elephant in the room, so it's hard to think about anything else.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. What is it? What is it besides Node.js? There's a few things, right? That might become MediaWiki might become dependent on.
Well, I'm not really.
I think so, yeah. For
What?
parsing, sorry, he's asking if Node.js is definitely one of the.
Parsoid is built on Node.js.
Parsoid is the parser-like.
Cytoid is
technology
built
that-
on Node.js.
What is that second one?
Cytoid, which
Oh,
is
okay.
a thing for managing citations. Then
Right
they
now,
have
it's only needed for visual editor, but it could potentially be needed for
that
core MediaWiki.
Mathoid. So yeah, there's all these things that they're building, which
Oh, do you want to?
anyway.
Oh, yeah.
Take this from me. Someone. I said too much.
I can just add that is routinely something that is blocking people from trying it in enterprise context. Is people might be interested in testing it because they see at work already configured, and then you explain to them, well, there is no policy in the company to prevent you from using it. We have cloud instances, and you can just spin your own and set it up. It's secure and it doesn't break anything, so that's fine. But then it's also not officially supported. It's not part of the services that we officially support because we're not staffed for it. So you're free to use it, but you have to support it yourself. And that's where things drop, because you need somebody. If you have a team with technical expertise and where somebody can take it on himself and set it up and go through the motion of configuring it and creating templates and forms and so on, fine, you can set it up. But many teams don't have that. They have expertise in other parts. They don't have somebody who can take that on to maintain a wiki.
They just have 3 guys who are flight instructors who get it in their, they get a reason, they say, hey, I need something to manage all this stuff, and they're motivated to do it. And if we keep those, mythical flight instructors from doing that sort of thing, that's not part of their full-time job, then, you're taking away the power. And we need to focus on making sure that people can still do that. So anyway, rah, rah, rah.
It might also bite you in the tail. In my situation, we use a couple of wikis. Some of them are essential for very large events and our boss is very happy and proud that we do. He doesn't care about how we do it, and he may not even know that we use wikis. But in the end, they want to see output results on their official business platform, which is SharePoint, right? So now I have to find a way to get all the neat things that I've built into a wiki and distill the essence of that and post it somehow on a SharePoint that brings the same emotion and effect to the users as what I do with my wiki. This seems like an impossible task.
I just very briefly want. Oh, sorry. Very briefly, I want to say one thing. I showed you the Wiki of the Month thing before, but it wasn't clear from there that each of these things has a long page describing it and showing screenshots and so forth. So that's what makes this a cool resource. Also, what makes it difficult to maintain. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, the last remark was only the second last, so this is the very last. I'm also advocating the fact that facets is what a wiki or a semantic media wiki is especially strong at. And I'm running this little trick for the first time on a Mac, so I hope it will work. If you concentrate for a second here, what was that? Who can tell me what that was? But I can't run it again. Otherwise, the point's gone. Okay, we agree it's a building, right? It was a building. So we have the type of the object. We have the class of the object. Now, what's the instance of the object? Okay, wait. What was that? There you go. The point is, it's the same information object from two different facets. Facets, perspectives, whatever. The point is, the top one requires many brain cycles. Of course, you would figure out that this is the Eiffel Tower, but you need to think, right? And we agreed yesterday we don't want to think. I mean, we want to work productively and not figure out what stuff it. And here, it is crystal clear. Your brain is already programmed to recognize that. And that's why it facets in the way that Semantic MediaWiki is capable of producing is so much more productive than a file system approach, which in 99% of the cases looks like the top picture. So that's another, and this, by the way, if you want to use it, it's online on my page. I can send you the link. And you just, these little collapse thing, that actually works pretty well. Just make sure that the top one, you just show for a fraction of a second. Otherwise, the point's gone.
Yeah, it's a great example. One of our wikis is for enterprise architecture. And basically, that's a whole lot of data from a whole lot of different stakeholders. The thing is, most of the data, they all use, but they use it in a different way, and it has a different meaning for them. Running out? Oh, hold on. Is it back on? No. Yeah. It's back on again. Yeah. Okay, so.
No.
No? No. Okay. So in enterprise architecture, you have a whole lot of data and many stakeholders that all have their own business interest, their own perspective on things. And that's the same thing what you mean. The way that you present your data has to match the expectations and the use of that stakeholder. And sometimes you have different ways to display your data to get the same effect with different users.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, this is a good time to. Good break point, I guess. No.
Yeah, well. What you want to say?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. You can
Yeah, well, it is a sign, obviously, that that the microphone died on us. An evil sign. I don't know who did it, but it worked. We've talked mainly now about how to convince your boss. You think it's less difficult to convince your co-workers to come along? I think it's more like it's more like Field of Dreams. Like if you build it, they will come. But like my friends from NASA said, you need to reach a critical mass before you get them across, and that depends on your business model, what constitutes your critical mass. So the most important thing that we learned in this discussion is if you want to convince your superiors, it's all about finding the right example and finding a way to translate that to your own environment and your own business model. And if you want to convince your coworkers, start working on it and make sure you have enough to impress them. Is that a good summary?
Not just to show it to them and convince them, but also to find a way to put it in their way of work.
Yes, in their perspective.
In your case, and that's it's very. It's more straightforward. You have to use it. It's part of your job. But as long as it's not part of their job, if it sits on the side, forget it.
And I think that's what Lex showed very vividly, and that's what I meant with my story, is you have to show it in their perspective. Otherwise, it doesn't have any meaning.